Now, I'm a geek. First thing you need to know is what is a geek? There's a common misconception on the interwebs, as geeks like to call them, which is not an actual term. It's just to make people who don't know the interwebs are not an actual term confused, right? On the internet, there's a conversation about what's a geek versus what's a nerd. Anybody have an idea of the difference?
Yes.
You do? Okay, what's the difference?
A nerd is just being a nerd for the nerd's sake. A geek is someone who gets it done.
Ah, I like that concept. And that's very close to my description of the differences. Now, I think everyone's a nerd. So don't take this as a negative connotation, because everybody can nerd out about something. It's something that you are willing to go so deep into that you do not care how awkward you are anymore about it. Everybody has a passion like that. It could be video games, it could be reading some books where, you know, they're kind of obscure or whatever it is. We have artists in the room who you might geek out or nerd out on a particular type of art that the rest of us don't understand. And it's that awkwardness, that central part of what makes up a nerd. Now, a geek tends to be a little bit more chic, right? Geek nowadays means a power user, perhaps somebody that has a skill set to handle any technology quickly. So my recommendation, and the reason why I'm talking about why I'm a geek today, is because I'd like all of you to embrace your inner geek and your inner nerd with me. What do I mean by that? How many of you have a phone in your pocket that's considered a smartphone? How many of your phones came with a manual? Oh, one. You have a BlackBerry.
It's a droid.
Oh, really? It came with a manual? How old is it? Nowadays, most of them don't come with a manual. Why don't they come with a manual? Because none of you ever read the manual in the first place, and they figured you're just killing trees. Right? The other fact is that you can download most of that information. But the actual problem is that these phones can do so much. And I want to know how much time any of you would put in your phone to actually study how to use this phone. An hour? Anybody put an hour in with a video online? Not even an hour? 2 hours, 3 hours? Nobody? All right. These phones are a small computer in your pocket. So an Apple employee, former genius perhaps. The phone that's in your pocket is like a small computer nowadays. This is how we actually do most of our computing. In fact, if you look at the internet and statistics and Google Analytics from most websites, 50 to 60% of the traffic is coming from a mobile device, which means that you should be putting just as much time into these devices as you would if you had a computer. And this is what geeks do. And this is what makes geeks chic, right? How many of you live in Chicago and pay a parking meter from time to time? All right, almost everybody in the room. How many of you do it with the app? All right, I feel bad for you suckers walking in the 30-degree temperature up to that thing to stick your credit card in for it to fail the first time while I'm sitting in my warm car punching in some numbers, right? There's a fact that these devices have a few main functions, and a geek knows this. One function is, of course, it's a phone, right? We make phone calls. As Tim has described, we no longer make phone calls like this on stage, we make phone calls like this. They're nice big things, right? So with that being said, phone calls is communication, which can be lumped into the categories of text messages and things like that, video calls, and we put in that. And we also have social networks, which are other channels of communication. So we're still on communication. But here's the thing. These phones can revolutionize your life because they can take over other devices, like timers, or workout pals, or calendars and time management tools. So part of the reason why I'm so adamant about you being a geek is because you have a device in your pocket or in your purse right now that could revolutionize your life if you just put a little bit more time into it. Because geeks know, and Lindsay, with a platform like you got to be a little bit of a geek, right? You got to put some time into that technology, and what do you get in return on that technology? Lindsay here, I'd have to say, is a geek. She got us up on meetup.com, which has been very fruitful for this group. And it was the idea of knowing what's available to us. And how do you know that? You have to explore. And this is why everybody in this room needs to be a geek now. You're new explorers of the web, the interwebs, as we now all call them. Right? I want you to figure out what your inner geek is. What are you most passionate about? And then I want you to take the device that you have in your pocket or in your purse and see if there are apps or tools available to help supplement that hobby, that idea, that value that you have, those things you would like to do in your life. Because here's what a geek does. He sits in his car, he pays his meter. He checks his bus route on the phone so he can leave his house in 4 minutes because he knows that's how long it takes him to get from his couch to the bus stop, right? He checks his banking, he checks his weather, he maybe goes in and looks at his statistics on his website, and he's able to make video calls, and guess what? If you're really geeky, you can actually take that device overseas. We have a friend from Spain here, right? Now, traveling abroad, you can buy a SIM card in Spain fairly easy, right? It's like 20 euro and you can get a few minutes on it. If you know how to use your phone, you can drop a SIM card in and you can stay connected. And you can use things like WhatsApp and Viber and all these things and contact our home for free instead of Verizon charging you $80 a second. So I'd like you to take a minute, look at your device, take some time to figure out what it can do for you. Go on the interwebs, spend an hour, download some new apps, and become a geek like me. Thanks.